Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the second edition of the LPEA Job Fair. We are so excited to having you with us today. So I'm Evie, Business Development and Project Manager at the LPEA, and today I'm here with my colleague Luis. Hello Luis.
Hi, good morning. My name is Luis Galveias. I'm the CEO of the LPEA, and I'm pleased to share the day with you to let you discover the opportunities that lay in Luxembourg to work in private equity and venture capital sectors. But before we start.
Yes, thank you, Luis. Before we start, we can invite in the floor our CEO, Stefan Pez. Stefan, over to you.
Good morning and warm welcome to our second job fair. Just wanted to share a few thanks. First of all, to you, dear members and sponsors of the LPEA. You are pioneers. You are joining us or rejoining us. You have created your booth. You have sent your HR directors, experts to discuss with those talents, with those youngsters about the job opportunities that you can provide them with. You will also nurture and take good care of those persons. That's really fabulous. And I think if we are continuing such great cooperations in the future, it will be very positive for the Luxembourg financial hub, private equity and venture capital centers. Also to you, dear talents and professionals, curious persons who will join us today or already here. It's very important to share with you why private equity and venture capital are so interesting in our eyes. It's really the combination of finance and the entrepreneurial spirit. That it's the value creation, it's the transformation, optimization of firms. It can be SMEs, can also be startups. So lots of interesting things, fabulous persons to meet, potentially also clients in the future if you find here a nice career opportunity. And this is certainly not a fairy tale. It's a competitive market. It also requires lots of perseverance, hard work. But there are, so many opportunities here around in Luxembourg in this thriving sector that my recommendation would be give it a try. Come and join us and be part of the community. Thanks a lot for joining also to, our classical sponsors. And I wanted to pass over now the word to Evie and Luis because they have been instrumental to the creation of the job fair. Guys, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Stefan. So we are going to start our first panel. And for you attendees, there is a chat available to ask your questions.
Yes, so for the first panel will dedicate to how to navigate the front office map. There are different types of positions in Luxembourg, and the market is very dynamic in all of them. But probably one of the most challenging ones is when it comes to front office positions, which is the same as to say fundraising, investment positions in local GPs. It's complex. It's usually more associated with senior levels and for C-suites. And that's why we have today our good friends, Gabriela, who is a C-level recruiter in Luxembourg, and not only an international recruiter. And we have Olaf, who is joining us from Luxembourg, one of the most famous Luxembourg-based investment firms. So the floor to you, Gabriela and Olaf. Maybe we start by asking Gabriela to introduce yourself, please.
Yes, hello. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you, Evie and Luis, for inviting me. I am Gabriela Nguyen Goza. I am an executive search consultant and a leadership development professional based in Luxembourg. I have been working on the Luxembourg market for 13 years now, and I am recruiting C-level and board-level professionals in the private equity area here in Luxembourg.
Thank you, Gabriela. And you, Olaf, would you like to say some words?
Yes, thank you. I can only join Gabriela in thanking you, Evie and Luis, for inviting me today. My name is Olaf Cordes. I have spent most of my professional career in private equity because I used to be one of the partners of a pan-European fund based in Paris called Alpha. Prior to joining Luxembourg some 2 years ago, and getting back to Luxembourg, where I have established, work-wise 18 months ago and physically a little bit more than 8 months ago now.
Thank you, Olaf.
Well, yes, maybe that's an important area to start with, and especially having arrived in Luxembourg more recently. What are the needs of the industry today? And coming from a GP, what do you need as you grow, as you set up, and as you speak with your peers? What kind of profiles are most needed in our sector?
I think it's actually very, very diverse, the needs, because it must be said that, let's say, if we talk a little bit more about front office, it's a nascent activity in Luxembourg, I think, because at least for the, let's say, buyout sector, Luxembourg has a thriving venture and growth ecosystem, which is extremely dynamic. For buyout, it used to be a little bit more focused on back office functions. This being said, I think a number of pan-European funds have understood the interest of being located in Luxembourg and also locating parts of their teams. So we are definitely trying to foster the recruitment of all kinds of profiles. Let's say both in terms of front office and also middle to back office for some central functions such as fundraising, operations, legal aspects. And then obviously front office, which is investor relations, and to some extent, or to a much larger extent, deal making. So I would say that we really tend to try to recruit people from quasi zero experience up to very senior C-level executives.
Mm-hmm. And well, going to the point as well of having moved recently, and we know that many of these front office positions will probably be attributed also to more experienced people in a certain way, which naturally coming from other markets. What was your experience in moving to Luxembourg? Well, in moving back to Luxembourg. Luxembourg was not new to you, of course, but what was your experience and the perception that usually people have from Luxembourg, and how is this evolving lately?
Yes, first of all, I cheated. I grew up here, so it's easier. I knew Luxembourg, even though I must admit that it has tremendously changed over the last 30 years, and very much for the better. So because it is once again very dynamic, thriving, I think a central message. It's probably one of the most dynamic, let's say, investment communities today. Coming back, I found all the key advantages I knew already when I left, which is the very international environment, which is, in my experience, very appealing to a number of people. When I left, we had probably 30 to 35% foreigners, but they were mainly EU nationalities, and getting older, but at the time EU, you might remember, was 12 nations. Today it is really international, and that is, to me, something which is both challenging but also extremely attractive, because I mean, being able to confront but also help out people who come from such different horizons is, to me, is very, very, very appealing, actually. But which means that you have to have an open mind. You have to try the product. A number of people also, frankly, saying when they are located in a larger capital in Europe, such as Paris, Berlin, London, going to Luxembourg is probably not their first top of mind choice. But I know actually a number, and I come across them all the time now since I'm living here, people who have made the step, and I have not heard of anybody who would regret it as of today.
I can say the same on my side as a newcomer. Maybe Gabriela can help us here, as she's recruiting people from abroad. Maybe she can explain to us which is the image that these people have for Luxembourg.
So a few years ago, I used to say that Luxembourg is not that Luxembourg has a bad image, is that it doesn't have any image at all. And it was true a few years ago. It's less and less true nowadays. And This is also because of the activity of LPEA, Luxembourg for Finance, and other governmental bodies, but also because of the activity of all the professionals in the private equity in Luxembourg, who are doing really tremendous efforts to promote private equity in Luxembourg and to promote Luxembourg as a private equity hub. So I would say that at the C-level, at the board level, people start to know Luxembourg, and I think that Luxembourg is becoming more and more attractive, including from people who are, for example, in the UK. A few years ago, for me, it was almost impossible to bring this kind of people to Luxembourg. Now the situation is changing. Not necessarily because of the Brexit situation, but also because Luxembourg is getting to be known in the private equity area. And happily enough, it's not about continental European wanting to come back in continental Europe, but also UK nationals who are attracted by Luxembourg. Again, one problem a few years ago was the schooling, because the first question that candidates would ask would be, what are the possibilities for their children to go to school in English or to international school? At the time, I remember a few years ago, we had some pressure in the schooling area, but now these problems are largely solved. The schooling offer really increased in Luxembourg in terms of international schooling. So I think that we are really on the good track, and everyone is really doing efforts to promote Luxembourg abroad. And we can see, I as a recruiter, I can see the effects of that.
Do you think that there is anything that needs further improvement that maybe can, can do Luxembourg more attractive to newcomers?
Yes, so it's really promotion. The quality of life is very good here. People do not necessarily know about that. I think that it's really the thing that we have to improve and to continue working on that. But otherwise, I think that, of course, we have to leave it a little bit of time to people to know about Luxembourg. Probably the real estate situation has to be improved, that there is attention on the real estate market in Luxembourg, but this is not something, I've never had a candidate who refused to come because of that. But once you get to the candidate and you talk about Luxembourg and you make them aware about the quality of life and the advantages to come to Luxembourg, they are open-minded and they really listen to you as a recruiter.
Okay. So
if I may just maybe add one point, nevertheless, it's a little bit pushing in open doors, and it's also to some extent related to COVID, but we need to improve transportation infrastructure and/or frequencies. Right now, partially also related to COVID, obviously, it's much more difficult to travel. But even, I'm very, very confident that we'll get back to to pre-COVID schedules and so on. But nevertheless, even then, we need to improve transportation infrastructure. It is not as fluid as it should be in terms of ability to travel. Most of the time, you want to go to Belgium, you need to take a car. You want to go to Germany, you need to take a car. Well, unless you go to Frankfurt or Munich, where you can take a plane. But then also, these days, planes are more complicated, and that needs to be improved because, frankly speaking, as well, especially if you talk about front office positions, the people need to travel because, they need to be in their local market as well, even though they can obviously thrive in Luxembourg. They also need to keep the contact with the community, and traveling needs to be very smooth. Else it's going to be to some sort of hindrance of the development of the Luxembourg hub.
before going to the next question, which links very much with what we just said, let me just remind all the participants that you can also interact and ask questions in the available form in this live page. So don't hesitate. Going back to what we said, what was changing, what was getting better now, some obstacles that exist, but which are the main challenges that you face, Gabriela, when some people are more reluctant to come to Luxembourg, and what is either a rejection from the recruitee or from the candidate, or a rejection from the company that is recruiting. So which are the main common bases of rejection?
I'm recruiting.
And we are speaking at C-level, so which are very specific type of positions.
Yeah, so maybe from a candidate point of view is really the fact that Luxembourg is not well known for front office positions, and they have in the back of their mind this idea that Luxembourg is a back office. So they are reluctant to give it a try, because they think these are very strategic people at the C-level, and they think about their own career strategy. So from their perspective, in terms of career strategy, they might believe that Luxembourg is not such a good location on their CV. So they sometimes are reluctant, but some of them say no, some of them are convinced. But I think that what is very important is also the company that is hiring. And in terms of employer branding, Luxembourg is a place where really employer branding is extremely important. And I'm not talking about employer branding and employer reputation and image at the global level, but really what is the employer's reputation on the Luxembourg market. And this is something very important. Today we are living in a information society, in a global society, and every information about every company and every team is like 2 phone calls away. So candidates can find very quickly relevant information, not only about the company, but also about the reputation of the team, about the atmosphere in the team, if people get along together, about every individual member of the team. And this is something that is done really on a regular basis by candidates. They are doing their due diligence regarding the team, the company, and then they make a decision based not only on that, but this is something that is very important for them.
As you speak of reputation, and there's still a lot to talk about the requirements of Luxembourg firms, but I recall that in previous conversations we had, it's also important for the candidates to have a reputation, especially at this level.
Oh yes, this is something
how can they work out this reputation actually?
Yeah, so I always said you cannot be a cowboy on the Luxembourg market. Because the market is quite small. Everybody knows everybody talks about everybody. So it's kind of a natural selection, as Darwin would put it, and cowboys are slowly eliminated from the market. So it's extremely important, not only for C-suite candidates, but also for any candidate at any level, to be very careful about his or her personal reputation, his or her personal branding on the market. And this is something that is really important if you have a real career strategy, and if you have goals in your career. The reputation is something that is extremely, extremely important. And I've seen people who were forced to leave Luxembourg, not because they wanted, but because they wouldn't find a job, because they had some casserole, as we say in French, in their career.
So I think networking is quite important for someone to have, credibility.
Yeah, this is something to have in mind. And maybe if I may add, I know that a lot of people who are watching this conference are maybe young people at the beginning of their career. If I can give a piece of advice and an executive search consultant is really think about your career strategy. Of course, you are young. When I was 20 or 25 or 30, I didn't know what I wanted to do with precision. But I think that you have to have, I would say, quite general idea about what you want to do in your career and what are the tools that you have to use and what are the means that you have to use in order to get to that generic goal. So a career strategy is really important.
The career strategy is important. The credibility, as we said, credibility goes hand in hand with networking. Olaf, although, as you said, you cheated because you come from Luxembourg originally, but you were away many years and then you came back, and you were sharing in our preparation call it was very easy for you to get connected with people. Can you go into more details?
I'll try. The thing is, I mean, we've been talking since the beginning a lot about attracting people from the outside. I think we should not forget, nevertheless, that I mean, there are Luxembourgish people as well, and they have some characteristics which I think actually are extremely interesting and charming. And one of them is their openness. I already spoke about the fact that we have a lot of foreigners here. It's also because the Luxembourgers were very happy to welcome them. So if you want to, coming into a new city or a new country is a little bit the same everywhere. Nevertheless, you need to adapt to the local habits and being open-minded, being accessible, being able to dedicate time, give time, will make you all the more recognized since what Gabriela just said is everybody knows everybody. And if people start considering you as being an expat who's here 3-4 days a week and then just can't wait to get away, you will never integrate the community. And it would be a shame. Because the community is once again growing. It is interesting. It has a lot to offer because everybody has this approach, which is to give. And especially, I mean, also bouncing back on what Gabriela just said about having a career path when you're young, you need to be prepared to start giving, because if at one point in time you want to call in favors, you need to have given them before. And that is really something very important. People call you up here. Well, you need to be there to give them time. Because you never know. At one point in time, a relationship which you had not considered at the beginning might come from this first contact, be it through the networking or be it just because the guy is very happy that you helped him at one point in time and you will be able to return the favor. So but this being said, that's how it works everywhere. So it's not really specific to Luxembourg, but nevertheless, it is obviously important to think about. Being able to integrate and more importantly not only give the impression but also be prepared to say, I'm here in the long run or for the long run and I want to stay in Luxembourg. I'm not just here 3 days a week and then taking back a train or plane.
Thank you, Olaf. That's a very good point. Actually, we are organizing these days with the volunteering and the time given by our members that are joining us in multiple sessions, and LPEA is a good example of that as well. We animate multiple committees and clubs, and they only exist because there are members that dedicate time and energy to put up and create new documents and new publications and deal with the challenges that the industry faces. In the meanwhile, we received 2 questions here. One of them related to the cowboys.
For Gabriela. Gabriela, the question is, what is the definition of a cowboy in this context? And there is also a comment here that says that some youngsters sometimes do not realize that simply they don't know what exactly they like. And the person says that I feel that the recruiter can access a good match or redirect the candidate to a more appropriate position that can align with the candidate DNA.
So let's talk about cowboys. So as I said, my preferred population, I mean, the people that I work with are C-level and board level people. And there are very few in Luxembourg, very few cowboys in Luxembourg at that level. Because as I said, the national selection was already operating. But I think that a cowboy would be someone who is not respectful to other people. As I said, everybody knows everybody in Luxembourg. People are very open-minded. People are very eager to help you if you gain their confidence, but you have to gain their confidence. So if you are not respectful, if you are motivated solely by the money, people will not consider you and will not, if you are someone who is not, I would say, paying attention to the co-workers, if you are someone who is not helping others, if you are someone who changes very, very frequently the job, people might think that you are not very stable, you're not very reliable. So you can be very easily, I would say, not taken into the consideration for some jobs because of these facts. And this is also, I'm coming back to the reputation. If you are, taking care of your reputation and try to adapt to the market, try to be open-minded, try to help people, then you will, what you give, you will have back from the other actors in the market. Yes?
No, it's my impression from the second part of the comment that we received, where it says that some youngsters sometimes do not realize that they simply don't know what exactly they like, and wouldn't be the responsibility also of the recruiter to assess where could they fit better.
So they need someone to advise them.
Yes, sort of a more interactive relation with the recruiter on maybe you're not fit for this, but there's this area of the company which I think your personality, your approach could be more better integrated.
Of course. So I'm doing a lot of courtesy meetings with my candidates. So of course I'm a trusted advisor, not only for my clients, but also for my candidates, and I give a lot of advice. I think that someone was mentioning the DNA. I am not a believer in the DNA. I mean, I'm even opposed to this way of viewing things. I think that we can all grow. I think that if we have this growing mindset, we can all achieve things that we have never thought about in our life. So I always encourage people, especially young people, to grow. And from that perspective, I strongly advise them to find a mentor. Mentoring is something that is extremely important, and you are very lucky to be in Luxembourg or to want to be in Luxembourg, because as Olaf said, Luxembourg people, Luxembourgish, but also the people who work in Luxembourg and who are coming from other countries are extremely open-minded. And if they think that if they think that you are someone reliable, if you gain their trust, they will give you their time to give you advice, to help you grow, to introduce you to the relevant people on the market. So I think that if you have a good mindset as a young professional, if you believe in your capacities to becoming what you want to become, if you have a growing mindset, and if you go to the relevant people and try to be mentored by the relevant people and just simply ask for advice, you will really thrive.
I think you're right. Yes, I think that there are opportunities here for free advices and people that will help you to grow in the sector. So thank you, Gabriela. Olaf, back to you. We have received a question here from an MBA student that says that, of course, they have a lot of opportunities that are coming through the university, but someone that is interested in private equity cannot find, this very easily through the university. And this was my next question as well. How easy is to build a front office career in Luxembourg in private equity? And if you have any advice?
I think I was about to bounce back because it's also in a link in relation with what Gabriela just said. Or the question is, obviously you can switch your mind, and you should, because you should keep an open mind. I mean, you should probably not change your approach or your career path every 18 months, because that means that you cannot really make up your mind. But going back to private equity, I think the key quality you need to have is curiosity. You need to want to keep an open mind and always try to discover new things, discover new sectors, discover new companies, new people. I mean, it's really the curiosity and the empathy and being open-minded is really one of the key qualities. This being said, there is not one single way to get into private equity. I mean, the usual career path is basically start in consulting, be it strategic, financial auditing, financial services, and so on, investment banking. I mean, there are a number of different ways, depending a little bit on your first experience, because I do agree that maybe when you just come fresh out of university or MBA, you don't really have the necessarily, you should think about it, as Gabriela just said, but one can understand that maybe it's not fully documented already. So there are a number of ways to get there, and after that, well, it's as usual. Join, hard work, be very analytical, very thorough, and learn, and that's all. But there are many different paths to get into private equity. You can even get into become an investor after having had let's say more an executive background before, and being really a manager, or having worked in a specific field in a company, as long as you bring expertise to the table, and once again this open-mindedness. So there is no clear path. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And coming back to the how can you, fresh out of university or fresh out of MBA, how can you get there? Give me a call.
Well, we're going to share Olaf's number in the chat box later.
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. Well, people can go straight to the front office. I think it's also very common to go through many of the service providers of the industry to grow your career from there. Maybe looking back, Gabriela, at the C-levels that you have now, where are they coming from? Where did they start?
If they are in Luxembourg for a long time, they started in the back office. This is very clear. So I think that a back office is really a very good place to start your career and to learn. The junior front office jobs are very scarce. So don't set yourself as a goal to start from your first job in a front office. I don't think this is necessarily a good, I would say, a good start, because you also need to find out what's happening behind the scenes. So a back office job in the private equity area is a very good place to start. It would be a very good learning experience. And after a few years, when you have all this knowledge and you have accumulated all this knowledge, not only you will have a better idea of the market in itself and of what are the companies that are relevant for you and the companies you would like to work for, but you can also bring to the table this back office experience that really, taught you something about private equity. And I hope that all of you agree with me that this is also something that you take into the consideration when you are recruiting young people. Also, maybe if I may add, a very important thing is be patient. A career is not built at a glance. I know that youngsters are very, eager to do things, etc. But be patient. Let things come to you. Do your part of the work. I always, work always pays. At the end of the day, work always pays. But take your time, learn things, be in this growth mindset, and people will see it. People will recognize that on the market, and good opportunities will come to you. Even if you have a first job, which is not, I would say, your dream job, or maybe there are some things that you are disappointed in, and there are some things that you really don't like, stay there, try to make it happen, try to make it work, don't give up. And I'm sure that people will appreciate that. I'm sure that people will see it, and good opportunities will come to you in a due time.
Thank you, Gabriela. So we have another question. Eva says that in the finance industry, we are observing more and more demand in advanced IT skills, such as Python, VBA. So is it something that you also research for LPEA profiles? And also she asks if this is an obstacle for candidates with a business school degree and not much experience with coding or programming.
As I said, I am working at a C-level. So at that level of seniority, clients don't ask you about your IT skills. So I'm not the one that should answer this question. Maybe Olaf has some insights.
And maybe in the next panel, we can answer better this question, Eva. But Olaf,
well, I don't know. I don't know how to code, but I know somebody who knows. Which is important, including in here, in my office. So answering the question is, it's not a prerequisite, definitely not, but things are moving as fast as they move today. It will, to some extent, at one point in time, be clearly maybe not a prerequisite, but definitely something that people pay attention to. And I'm here as a dinosaur working in buyouts. Obviously, I would tend to believe that for the more, let's say, venture and growth part, being able to understand operating issues around engineering, software, IT, and stuff like that will at one point become a prerequisite. So rather than saying it's discouraging, no, not at all. I think it is very important and very interesting for somebody with a more IT background to also look into private equity, because there will be ways, maybe not immediately as an investor, but as Gabriela said, also you can be working on portfolio, helping companies actually progress in their digitalization efforts, and the more you do portfolio work, at one point in time, people will recognize that you're contributing to the thing, and then also let you move it to the investor side. And then once again, in the, let's say, more early stage investments, clearly IT today is a very sought for competence.
Yes, but I think in general, new skills are important to go further with your career, and especially in a competitive environment like Luxembourg. But I think that we can answer this question better in the next panel.
Yes, let me just add a comment for Eva and for the others that are more interested also in technology. Well, we actually have the LPEA Insights Conference coming up in a few days, but the focus will be on technology disruption. And this to say that we have seen in the market now many new players, many new services around private equity that require IT skills. So there's a lot of digitalization efforts in the industry. And so there are profiles that require people with knowledge in private equity, but also with knowledge in IT. Maybe not so many internally in fund managers or investors, but definitely in services that gravitate the industry. So I think we're coming towards the end of our schedule here. I would like to ask you for some closing remarks. Gabriela, your last intervention was, your previous intervention was quite, sounded almost like closing remarks, but if you have any advice, thinking again on the front office positions and also C-level, thinking of people that might be working outside of Luxembourg, considering to come to Luxembourg, or people that is already in Luxembourg here, maybe even nationals, that want to progress and go up their career ladder. What should they be doing?
So I think that Luxembourg is really a promising place to be in terms of a private equity career, including from a front office perspective. I am convinced that it will grow in terms of opportunities in the next years. I have seen it growing steadily in the last years. I think that LPEA was founded in 2012. I remember exactly. And I can see all the changes that have occurred on the market since then. Definitely having a career strategy is my first piece of advice. Also, as we said, reputation is important. Having a growth mindset. Also at a C-level, it's not because you are a C-level person that you don't have to grow anymore. Being open to opportunities, being open-minded, and trying to promote at your individual level Luxembourg abroad for people who are based in Luxembourg. This would really be my closing remarks.
And you, Olaf?
Well, it's difficult to step in as a second, so because Gabriela rounded it up very well. Yes, I think it's really. I mean, you should give it a try. Private equity, to me, is if you want to have a career in finance, it's probably the most all-round career you can have, because you talk about technical issues, financial issues, but you also touch on the strategy. Development, and you are in a very challenging environment because people want to progress, but it's also a position where, or a sector where human relationships are most important. I told my members of the team, I asked them a question: is what are we selling? And in the end, what we're selling is money. Money is the same next door. So what makes the difference is really your personality, your ability to contribute to the development of the company you invest in, and that requires some specific skills, which are not only technical, but which are also just human values and perspectives. So the only comment I would say is that do not try only to capitalize on technicality, studies, and so on. Show that you are an all-round person which has all the values that Gabriela just mentioned.
Thank you very much. I also took some notes during the session. So we say people only memorize 3 things after watching a conference. So three points which I believe people should definitely memorize. So network, meaning create your network, your credibility around here. Well, of course, prepare yourself, get training, and make sure that you have the qualifications to work in the industry, and be patient and find the help of other people like mentors, as I think it was Gabriela suggested. Find mentors because they can help you through your career in Luxembourg. As we said, it's a big market, but small at the same time, where people can know each other and they come across every now and then. So it's a very relational market. Thank you very much, the two of you, Olaf and Gabriela.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olaf. Thank you,
Thanks
Gabriela.
for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending the panel. See you for the next panel around 11:30. You're going to receive a notification. And I would like to encourage you to visit the stands, because this is the purpose of this event, to meet the recruiters, to explore the opportunities, and of course, to expand your network, as we already said. So thank you all.
So next panel on how to ace your recruitment process. So time to sharpen your CV and your approach. Speak later.
And thanks
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
audience.
Have a great
Thanks.
day.
Bye-bye.
Good luck to all.
Bye-bye.